this is Ross Hemsworth. Now That's Weird is one of the fastest growing paranormal programs on the airwaves, and you can advertise on this show right now. Just send an email to info@phantomorfraud.com. That's info@phantomorfraud.com, and we'll discuss ways live on the show. We're syndicated worldwide, so it's not just in the UK, it's all over the world. Get your message across now. info@phantomorfraud.com.
It's Ross Hemsworth talking paranormal on Now That's Weird.
As welcome back to the show. It's me, Ross Hemsworth. We're into the second hour, and sorry for the problems this evening. If you've just tuned into the show, a slight communications problem with America on the times this evening, so a change around in our guests. And in the second hour of the programme tonight, we're going to be talking to Dr. Ron Milioni from TAPS and John Hutchison, the man behind the Hutchison anti-gravity effect, and we'll be speaking to them in just a moment. But before we go over to them, I'd like to just quickly read you an email that's come in to me from Mark Thompson in Runcorn in Cheshire. Sorry to hear about your broadband problems. So yes, don't even talk about it. Believe me, Mark, it's driving me nuts. There's actually evidence, he says, of materialization taking place in audio form to be found on victorzammit.com. Now, I know Victor very well. He's a lawyer that's been making a case for the afterlife for some time. And Mark continues, by following through audio of David Thompson's materializations, among them are Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and even Louis Armstrong. I find it hard to get my head around this, because if this is really real, then it must be one of the most, if not most important discoveries to mankind. I think Michaell Roll said that video evidence can't be shown because it would be easier to incriminate, and then it'll lose credibility. Its credibility is important if people banded it around as being fake. People would lose interest and the reputation would be severely damaged. We will have to wait and see if they are fully evolved, and then respected scientists on our side can step in to dedicate their time to be shown alongside them. Then no one can accuse these videos of being fake. And that's from Mark Thompson in Runcorn in Cheshire. Mark, thank you for that. I am a piece you talk about on Victor Zammit's website. And I always find it strange that whenever it's a materialization medium, that they seem to be getting big names through. As I say, we've been working with a materialization medium, and some very big names were mentioned as contacting. Now, why don't people just get Fred from down the road or John from Manchester? You know, why is it always got to be Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Louis Armstrong and Winston Churchill? That, I'm afraid, puzzles me. And how do you know it's Louis Armstrong? I mean, in a black room, you know, for God's sake. You know, what does he do? Say, as the trees are green. You know, I mean, for God's sake, how would you know? So I don't know. I question it, Mark. I really do. But, hey, I'm open-minded and I'm willing to listen. And Victor is a friend of mine. And if he says that he's convinced, well, that's pretty good for me. And I know Montague Keen was also convinced of this. So before he died, at a physical mediumship event. And I think that was with Mr. Thompson. So it'll be interesting to see what develops in time to come. But I certainly think that my previous emailer there was right to say that I think Michaell Roll's going to have a hard job finding that forward. Anyway, moving on to the next subject, I have with me Dr. Ron Milioni from... Welcome back to the show. It's me, Ross Hemsworth. We're in That's Weird. Hope you're enjoying it so far. Fantastic time there with Dr. Ron Milioni and John Hutchison talking about recreating the Philadelphia experiment. Now, I had a couple of emails that have come in slightly late, and I want to put those in quickly before introducing the next guest. First one is, hope you don't mind me emailing you again, Mr. Hemsworth. Great show. Oh, please. Too formal. It's Ross. All right, bless. There you go. It says, just been checking out Victor Zammit's site, and it says that they use voice matching techniques to eliminate any chance that the materialized might be feigning a voice. I think the reason why only famous people come forward is because of importance alone for it to be dramatic, and supposed scientists on the other side send them through. No one comes forward who you want unless it's requested from a family there, and I would have thought no one of the less importance would have access to the so-called transporters over there. Best regards, Mark Thompson from Runcorn in Cheshire. Thanks for that, Mark, much appreciated. Another email that's come in is from Wessex Ghost Hunters, continuing on about the Tic-Touch experiment that they were talking about earlier. This is basically, Ross, this Tic-Touch experiment is the use of information on the screen. A member of ours makes these in factories and has made one especially for us with numbers and letters. A bit like doing a glass movement trying to find answers. We ask for spirits to come closer and to use our technology to touch, or to use our energy, to touch the right letters. Incredibly, this has been a massive success and we use it all the time. And it can't be unconscious movement like skeptics say about the glass moving. And that's a fascinating idea. It's a sort of Ouija board on your computer. Great idea, Conrad. Well done. I give you thumbs up on that one, definitely, and it's something that we might try out ourselves. Great idea, a sort of touch screen where Spirit can use the energy of the people around to touch the actual letters and numbers. Great one. Thank you very much for your emails there. Now, my next guest is from other authors. And what I'd like to do actually quite quickly, if I can, is just read you some of the comments that other people have said about my book. So if I can actually just pull that up here on screen, if I can find it. You can never find things when you need them, can you? It's the MSN thing of My Documents, isn't it? You go in there and everything's in a file and it should be there. So let me see if I can just quickly find this, and then I can read you what some of the others have said. You can have a look actually at www.phantomorfraud.org. That's phantomorfraud.org. And there's a piece on there that tells you what other authors have said. But here's some of the comments. Ross's book comes at a time when it's vital to end the taboo of death. Only knowledge rather than mere belief of the continuation of life after death can counter the immeasurable suffering that's being caused by the insanity of religious belief. To this end, Ross's research makes a powerful onslaught against deadlocked mindsets and offers a serious challenge for those who wish to keep things the way they are. Paul Reed, who's the webmaster for Michaell Roll. Philosophical freedom. I'll get right in a moment. From Ghost to Ghouls, Ross's long-awaited first book is sure to inspire. Dr. Karen Rouse, author of The Templars and the Grail. Ross has been a serious investigator of the paranormal for a long time. He is one of the few I hold in high esteem. I would wholeheartedly recommend this book to anybody who's intrigued by the subject, and that's from international best-selling author Philip Gardner. Ross is my favourite radio presenter on the paranormal, leading expert in paranormal research, and now a renowned author. This is a must-read book. From George Lockett, spiritual healer. I've been a guest on Ross Hemsworth's radio show on the paranormal, which, like his book, takes one on a roller coaster ride from skeptic to believer. Ellie Crystal from Crystal Links. With our vast knowledge of Ross, we knew we'd be in for a good read that we couldn't put down. Dave, Martin and Andy, the Cosmic Conspiracies research team. Ross, over some time, has taken a good and honest look, researching and aiding in his understanding of the paranormal. There are many aspects and theories in this specialised field. The hope is that when reading this book you will get an insight into that very world. What Ross has learned and understood from a non-believer to believer who seeks through his research, this book will aid true students who also seek the truth. That's Marion Dompierre-Jean's international acclaimed spiritualist medium. Ross Hemsworth is a great chronicler of the paranormal, and his radio show has opened the eyes and minds of millions. His first book turns the spotlight on his own research and gives readers a fascinating insight into the world of the weird and the wonderful. That's from former Ministry of Defence UFO project officer Nick Pope. Ross shows a courage and determination in his quest to uncover the truth behind a plethora of paranormal phenomenon, with theories drawn from his own personal experiences and extensive research. Gary Johnson, spiritual medium and POF team leader. And having been a guest on Ross's radio show a few times, I know what's in store for everyone, and believe me, you will not want to miss this compelling new book. And that's from author Andrew Collins. So thank you guys, that's really nice of you to put all those things in writing for us. I really appreciate that, and it's so nice to know that other great authors are being so positive. And that book, of course, you can pre-order it now, greyfriarpress.com, that's grey with an A, greyfriarpress.com / get your orders in now. The book comes out the 31st of October. Don't forget, as I said, I'm speaking at Glastonbury Town Hall at 4 o'clock on Sunday. You can come along. It's the Earth and Spirit Fair. Lots of speakers on. Philip Gardner himself is on the Saturday. Music from Soul Path. Lots of speakers, lots of stalls and stands there. It's going to be a fantastic event. And I'm there 4 o'clock on Sunday. Do come along and say hello. It'd be nice to meet some of you. And if you can't make that, 31st of October, I'm signing new copies of my book at Labyrinth Books in Glastonbury in the High Street. And you're more than welcome to come along to that as well. 3 p.m. on Halloween, All Hallows Eve, 31st of October. And there'll be some nibbles and wine flowing freely, so I'm told. So do try and get along to that if you can. And watch out for the launch of Glastonbury Radio coming soon, glastonburyradio.com. It's a web radio world project. We're really looking forward to launching that. And news is on that website, glastonburyradio.com. Stay tuned in the second hour. An hour later than advertised, Dr. Ron Milioni, Amy. And then in the third hour tonight, the vampire hunter himself from behind the Highgate Cemetery. It's Sean Manchester, the Bishop Sean Manchester, joining me in the third hour of the programme. Stay tuned. Sorry about the confusion in the first hour of the show tonight. Hope you're still enjoying it though, and I'll be back with you right after the break.
World News from FSN, I'm Catherine True. The U.S. Senate has passed controversial legislation backing President George Bush's proposals to interrogate and prosecute foreign terror suspects. It was the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in June that White House plans for military tribunals for Guantanamo detainees lacked congressional authorization. The House of Representatives has already given its support to the measure, and it could be signed into law within days. However, Republican Senator John Warner voted against the bill and says he has no intention of giving up his fight against it.
We've got to fight it with every single tool we have at our disposal, consistent with the law of this nation and international law.
NATO defense chiefs have been meeting in Slovenia in a bid to map out the expansion of the alliance's military operations in eastern Afghanistan. Earlier, ministers agreed to boost NATO's presence in the mountainous region, even as it struggles to find troops to fight the Taliban in the south. Nina Maria Potts reports.
NATO is extending its mission in Afghanistan to cover the whole of the country. Some 12,000 U.S. troops would come under NATO control in Afghanistan under the plan, announced Thursday on the first day of high-level NATO talks in Slovenia. The move takes the alliance into the eastern parts of Afghanistan. The announcement came as the U.S. military near the Pakistani border have tripled in recent weeks. The U.S. deployment will be the biggest under foreign command since the Second World War. Germany has also decided to extend its troops' stay in the country by another year, although they will not join the mission in the south where NATO's been facing stiff Taliban resistance.
Officials in the Georgian capital of Tbilisi say 4 Russian officers have been charged with spying. The 4, based at the Russian embassy, are expected to appear in court for a preliminary hearing on Friday. Russia is recalling its ambassador to Tbilisi after Wednesday's arrest and is beginning a partial evacuation of its personnel from Georgia. The Georgian president has described Moscow's reaction to the arrest as hysteria. The first female-paying space tourist has landed back on Earth after a visit to the International Space Station. Anousheh Ansari has landed back in Kazakhstan in the Soyuz capsule, along with an American and Russian astronaut. The craft slowed its descent by firing rockets and opening parachutes until it landed softly on its side in a field. A dozen helicopter rescue teams rushed over to help the astronauts. 8-year-old Ms. Ansari smiled but looked weak as she was greeted by her husband, and all 3 astronauts were taken to a training center outside Moscow. After paying around $20 million, Ms. Ansari becomes the 4th tourist to visit the International Space Station. The human rights group Amnesty International has accused Pakistan of abducting hundreds of people as part of the US-led war on terror, often secretly holding them for months while they are interrogated. The human rights group claims that some are held in Pakistan while others are handed over to US detention centers, sometimes
forward. Anyway, moving on to the next subject, I have with me Dr. Ron Milioni from TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, and John Hutchison from the Hutchison Effect. We finally got them on the phone. They're here with me now. Gentlemen, good evening.
Ross, good evening. How you doing?
All right, can you both introduce yourself for me?
John, you want to go first?
Yeah, Ron, you go first.
Okay, great. Well, this is Ron Milioni, and affiliated with TAPS, that's the Atlantic Paranormal Society, which is based out of Rhode Island, here on the East Coast in the U.S. And basically, we're here. The main objective of TAPS is trying to hunt ghosts or actually debunk it. Also, teamed up with John, and John and I is going to kind of branch out and really do a lot more paranormal research into all the areas. So John and I teamed up, and our first thing that we're working on is to try to recreate as accurate as possible the Philadelphia experiment. So, John, over to you.
Oh, great. Thank you, Ross, for having me on your show. My name is John Hutchison of